I always thought I had a solid marriage with Lisa. We were together for 7 years, married for 3, and I believed we had built something worth fighting for. Friends would often comment on how perfectly we complemented each other. I was the calm thinker, she was the fiery spirit. But over time, I noticed little changes in her behavior that left me feeling uneasy. It wasn't anything blatant at first, just small things. Lisa started taking longer to respond to my texts. Her excuses for late nights out with friends became vague, and she seemed increasingly distant. At first, I brushed it off as life getting busy. I mean, it's easy for that to happen, right? We both had demanding jobs, and the pressures of daily life can really take a toll. But my gut told me something was off. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but I felt like I was watching her slip away from me piece by piece. Then, one evening, I got home early from work and found Lisa in the bathroom. I was just about to say something lighthearted when a flash of movement caught my eye. I saw something unusual peeking out from behind the sink, a second toothbrush. My heart sank. I didn't need a degree in detective work to figure out that this wasn't just an innocent guest toothbrush. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I confronted her that night, my heart pounding, anger bubbling just beneath the surface. "Lisa, why is there another toothbrush in our bathroom?" I asked, trying to stay calm, but I could hear the tremor in my voice. She turned to me, a look of confusion and then irritation crossing her face. "What are you talking about? That's just an extra one. I bought it for when you're sick or something." I couldn't believe the audacity of her response. An extra toothbrush behind the sink, really? That's your excuse? It felt like she was trying to gaslight me, to turn the situation around and make me feel irrational. She scoffed, crossing her arms defensively. "You're being ridiculous. Why would I need another toothbrush? You're just looking for reasons to be upset." I clenched my fists, feeling the anger boil over. "I'm not looking for anything, this is right in front of me. Are you cheating on me, Lisa?" Instead of answering, she rolled her eyes and went back to applying her makeup, as if my question was merely an annoyance. "You're paranoid, Mark. You always think the worst of me. Maybe you should focus on your own insecurities instead of accusing me of something so awful." I stood there, dumbfounded. How could she turn this back on me? It felt like a punch to the gut, the sheer audacity of her dismissal. I had trusted her completely, and now she was making me feel like I was the one in the wrong. But I knew I wasn't crazy. Something was happening behind my back, and I needed to get to the bottom of it. After she finally left the room, I sat down on the bed, my heart racing. I felt like I was in a fog, my thoughts spiraling. I went through all the moments, all the little signs I had dismissed. The late-night texts, the unexplained absences. How could I have ignored them for so long? I realized I needed to gather more evidence. I wasn't just going to take her word for it anymore. I had to know the truth, and I was going to find it, no matter what. But I also knew that the longer I waited, the more my stomach churned at the thought of what I might find. As the days passed, I turned into a detective, watching her every move. I started checking her phone when she left it behind, looking for anything that might prove her infidelity. I felt like I was losing my mind, caught in a whirlwind of doubt and paranoia. But I had to know if my instincts were correct. And then, just as I was starting to feel hopeless, I found something. Something that confirmed my worst fears. I had gone out one night with a friend for a few drinks to clear my head, and when I returned home, Lisa was in the living room on her phone. She quickly silenced her conversation as I walked in, and it was clear she was caught off guard. With a mix of apprehension and determination, I approached her. "Who were you talking to?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Oh, just a friend," she said casually, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. I pressed, "A friend? Why do you need to keep your conversations private from me?" She shrugged, a careless smile on her face. "It's nothing, Mark. You really need to chill out." But I could see it in her eyes, the fear, the guilt. She wasn't being honest. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "I want to know who that is, Lisa. I deserve to know." Her laughter was cold, dismissive. "You really need to stop being so insecure. It's embarrassing." But I was done with the gaslighting. I was going to get the answers I needed. The emotional toll was heavy on me, and I felt my heart sink deeper as every revelation unfolded. The sense of betrayal was suffocating, like a weight pressing down on my chest. I wasn't just angry, I was heartbroken. I had trusted her completely, and now that trust felt like shattered glass scattered across the floor, sharp and painful. I didn't know how I would confront her again, or how I would handle the aftermath of whatever decision I made. But one thing was clear: I wouldn't let her manipulate me anymore. I had to find the truth. I just had to. The days turned into a blur as I continued my quiet investigation, and my resolve only strengthened with every passing moment. I needed to know for certain if Lisa was cheating on me. I had seen the signs. You don't just accidentally leave a second toothbrush tucked behind the sink, especially when it's not mine. But now I was on the hunt for concrete proof. I couldn't let her gaslight me anymore. I needed to arm myself with the truth. It was a Friday evening, and Lisa had mentioned she was going out with some of her coworkers for drinks. I knew this was her routine, but something felt different this time. I decided to take matters into my own hands. I waited until she left, then I grabbed my phone and checked her social media. I knew her passwords. We never had secrets, or so I thought. I logged into her account and scrolled through her messages. At first, it was all pretty mundane work banter, memes shared among friends, and the occasional flirty comment from some guy I'd never heard of. But then I stumbled upon a conversation that made my stomach drop. It was a back-and-forth exchange with a guy named Chris. They were joking, laughing, and it was clear they had an inside joke about something that happened at the bar last week. But it was the final message that hit me like a gut punch. "Can't wait to see you again. Let's keep this our little secret." My heart raced. I felt the blood drain from my face. I was flooded with a mix of anger and betrayal, the reality of what I was reading sinking in. My hands trembled as I took screenshots of the conversation, desperate to have proof I could confront her with. I spent the next hour pacing our living room, the weight of her betrayal pressing heavily on my chest. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I also felt an overwhelming need to keep my composure. I couldn't let her see how much this was affecting me, not yet. When she finally came home, I pretended nothing was wrong. I greeted her with a smile, masking the turmoil inside me. "How was your night?" I asked, my voice steady. "Pretty good, just the usual, you know," she said, tossing her purse on the counter. "How was your evening?" I silently cursed myself for playing the part of the oblivious husband, but I needed to gather more information. "Oh, I just relaxed at home, caught up on some shows." She seemed satisfied with my answer, but I could see her glancing at her phone, and I wondered if she was thinking about her conversation with Chris. I had to act quickly before she started to suspect anything. The next day, I was determined to confront her. I spent the morning stewing in my thoughts, replaying the conversation over and over in my mind. I wasn't just angry, I felt completely shattered. How could she betray me like this? Didn't we have something real? As the day wore on, I prepared myself mentally for what was to come. I decided it would be best to wait until the evening when we could talk without any distractions. I wanted to lay it all out on the table, to not leave any room for her to deflect or deny. I was done being manipulated. When the sun began to set, I called Lisa into the living room. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice even though my heart was racing. She looked at me with a raised eyebrow, clearly caught off guard. "Is everything okay?" "Not really. I found something I need to confront you about. It's about Chris," I said, watching her reaction closely. Her face paled slightly, and I could see the small flicker of fear in her eyes. "What about him?" she asked, trying to play it cool, but I could tell her heart was racing too. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screenshots I had taken. "This doesn't look like just friends to me, Lisa. What's going on?" She froze, her mouth opening and closing as if she was trying to find the right words. "Mark, that's just a joke. You know how people are. We're all friends at work. You're reading too much into this." My anger flared. "A joke? Does that look like a joke to you? Let's keep this our little secret. You think I'm just going to let that slide?" She shifted uncomfortably, her facade starting to crack. "You're being overly dramatic. I can't believe you would snoop through my messages. That's such an invasion of privacy." I shook my head, feeling the heat rise in my chest. "I didn't want to snoop, Lisa, but when you started acting weird and there was this second toothbrush in the bathroom, I had to figure out what was going on." She took a step back, crossing her arms defensively. "I can't believe you would accuse me like this. You're making me feel like a criminal for having friends." This was classic Lisa, deflecting blame, making me feel guilty for her actions. "This isn't about you having friends. It's about you crossing boundaries and lying to my face." "How long has this been going on?" Her silence spoke volumes. I could see the gears turning in her head, trying to formulate a response that would save her. "I swear it's not what you think. You're just insecure and paranoid, and this is your way of making me the bad guy." The sheer audacity of her words sent my blood boiling. "No, Lisa, you're the one who's been deceitful, and I'm done letting you twist this around on me. I deserve to know the truth." Finally, she relented, her eyes flickering with resentment. "Fine, maybe I've hung out with him a few times after work, but it's nothing serious. You're overreacting." Each word felt like a slap in the face. "Nothing serious. Then why all the secrecy? This is more than just hanging out, Lisa. You know it, and I know it." She paused, her bravado faltering as the reality of her situation settled in. I could see the facade of innocence crumble, leaving behind the woman I thought I knew. It was heartbreaking to see her like this, yet infuriating at the same time. I felt an overwhelming wave of sadness wash over me. This wasn't just about the betrayal. It was the realization that the woman I loved had been hiding this part of herself from me. As the confrontation continued, I felt the sadness transforming into resolve. I wasn't just going to sit back and let her manipulate me anymore. I was going to take control of my life again, regardless of where our relationship went from here. But the question loomed: what would I do next? The answers were unclear, but one thing was certain: I wouldn't let her gaslight me any longer. I was ready to decide what my next steps would be, for better or worse. The confrontation did go as I had imagined. I thought maybe it would unleash a torrent of tears, some heartfelt apologies, and an admission of guilt. Instead, we sat there in a tense silence, the air thick with resentment and anger. Lisa was defensive, her walls up as she fought to maintain her narrative, while I was left grappling with the urgency of my next move. "I can't believe you snooped on me," she spat, her voice dripping with disdain. "That's the real betrayal here. You invaded my privacy just to find something to throw back at me." I took a deep breath. "This isn't about privacy, it's about trust, Lisa. You've broken that trust. You've been lying to me, and you're trying to shift the blame onto me." She narrowed her eyes, her posture rigid. "And what do you plan to do about it? You think you can just throw accusations and demand answers? You're being unreasonable. Unreasonable." I laughed bitterly, disbelief coursing through me. "You think I'm being unreasonable for wanting loyalty in our marriage, for wanting you to be honest about who you're spending your time with." At that moment, I realized that I wasn't going to change her mind. She wasn't going to admit that she was wrong or that she had betrayed me. I felt the weight of despair settle on my shoulders. I had hoped that deep down, she would recognize the damage she was causing, but it was clear that she was more interested in preserving her own image. "Maybe I should just leave," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop myself. It felt like a release, a way to regain some control over a situation that had spiraled beyond my grasp. Lisa's expression changed slightly, though she quickly masked it. "Fine, walk away, go ahead. You think you're the only one who can make a decision here. I'm not going to beg you to stay." The anger in her voice stung, but it was like a slap of cold water waking me up. I could feel my heart racing, a mixture of fear and resolve taking hold. "You're right, I shouldn't have to beg. But this isn't just about leaving. It's about figuring out what I want for myself moving forward." Her eyes softened for a moment, and I could see the cracks in her armor, but she quickly regained her composure. "What do you mean by that? Are you really considering ending our marriage over this?" I leaned back against the couch, running a hand through my hair. "I don't know yet, but I do know that I can't stay in a relationship built on lies. You've betrayed me in the worst way, and I can't just ignore it." Lisa's face fell, and for the first time I saw a flicker of vulnerability. "I didn't mean for it to happen this way. I was just—" I interrupted her, feeling the anger boil back. "Just what? Having fun, trying to escape our life together. You're making excuses for your behavior, and it's sickening." We both sat in silence, the tension palpable. I could nearly hear the gears turning in her mind as she formulated her next words. I could almost sense her need to divert the conversation, to shift the focus back onto me. "Mark, you're overreacting. You have to understand that Chris is just a friend. I swear there's nothing romantic about it. Why can't you just trust me? Trust. The word echoed in my mind, bringing with it a wave of nostalgia for the trust we had once shared. But that trust was gone, shattered by her choices. You can't expect me to trust you after everything that's happened. You've left me with no choice but to question everything. I didn't think you were the type to jump to conclusions. She snapped back, her voice rising. You used to be so level-headed. What happened to that guy? Maybe the guy you married is gone because of your behavior. You've turned me into someone I don't recognize. The conversation began to spiral, and it was clear we were both digging deeper into our own wounds rather than finding a way to heal. I knew I had to change the course of this discussion before it consumed us both. Look, I said, my voice calmer now, I need time to think about what I want. I'm not making any rash decisions, but I can't keep living in this state of uncertainty and betrayal. We need space from each other to figure this out. Lisa scoffed, crossing her arms. Space. Now you're treating me like I'm the problem here. You're the one who's spiraling. I sighed, feeling exhaustion settle into my bones. I'm not trying to place blame on you, but the truth is we can't continue like this. We can't pretend everything is fine when it's not. She stared at me, eyes filled with a mix of anger and sadness, and for a brief moment I thought I caught a glimpse of regret. But then it vanished, replaced by her familiar defensive demeanor. Fine, she said, her tone cold. If you want space, then take it. I won't beg you to stay. With that, she stormed off to the bedroom, leaving me alone in the silence of the living room. I felt a mixture of relief and pain. Relief because I was finally standing up for myself, but pain because it felt like I was losing her, the woman I had committed to for better or worse. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying our conversation in my mind. I felt completely lost. I had always believed that love could conquer any obstacle, but now I was left questioning everything I thought I knew about us. Would it be possible to rebuild trust after such betrayal? Or would this be the beginning of the end of our life together? As I drifted into a restless sleep, I realized that I had to make a choice. I could either continue to fight for a marriage that felt broken beyond repair, or I could start focusing on my own happiness and well-being. The decision loomed over me like a dark cloud, but one thing was certain. I wouldn't let her gaslight me any longer. I would find a way to reclaim my life, even if it meant facing the painful truth about our marriage. The days that followed the confrontation were some of the most confusing and painful of my life. Lisa and I were living in the same house but in entirely separate worlds. We barely spoke, and when we did, it was often laced with tension and bitterness. I spent my days lost in thought, replaying moments from our relationship and trying to determine how things had gone so wrong. I couldn't help but feel the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. I had told Lisa I needed space to think, but what did that really mean? I had always prided myself on being a rational thinker, but suddenly my emotions were all-consuming. I felt like I was on a roller coaster, swinging between anger, heartbreak, and moments of clarity. One evening, I decided to take a walk to clear my mind. I found myself strolling through the neighborhood, listening to the sounds of life around me. Families were out enjoying their evenings. Kids were playing, and I felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness wash over me. Everyone seemed so happy, and here I was, caught in this whirlwind of betrayal and confusion. I thought about all the moments Lisa and I had shared, our first dates, our late-night conversations, the laughter that had once filled our home. It was hard to reconcile the woman I fell in love with and the woman who had cheated on me. I couldn't shake the feeling of despair that wrapped around me like a heavy cloak. As I wandered, I received a text from Lisa. "Can we talk?" The simple message sent my heart racing, and I found myself standing still in the middle of the sidewalk. I had been hoping for this moment, yet I felt my stomach twist with anxiety. I responded cautiously. "Sure, when? Can you come home? I think we need to discuss everything," she replied, a hint of vulnerability in her words. I headed back, my mind racing with possibilities. What could she possibly say that would change the reality of what had happened? Or was this just another attempt to manipulate the situation to her advantage? When I arrived home, Lisa was waiting in the living room, her posture tense and uncertain. She looked different, her usual confidence diminished, and for a moment I felt a pang of sympathy for her. Maybe she was feeling the weight of her actions too. "Thanks for coming back," she said softly, avoiding my eyes. "Let's just get to it," I replied, crossing my arms. "What did you want to talk about?" She sighed deeply, running a hand through her hair. "I've had some time to think, and I realize I've made a lot of mistakes. I don't want to lose you, Mark." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been waiting to hear her apologize, to see her recognize the pain she caused, but hearing her say it out loud was different. It brought forth a rush of emotions that I had buried deep. "You say that, but how can I trust you again? You've already shattered that trust." "I know," she said, her voice trembling. "I can't change the past, but I want to make it right. I want to work on us." I felt my heart waver, torn between the love we once shared and the hurt that lingered. "And what if you get tempted again? How can I be sure that you won't do this to me again?" "I swear I'll do whatever it takes. I've been a fool, Mark. I let myself get caught up in the excitement of a new connection, but it was all a mistake. Chris means nothing to me." "I want you," she said, her eyes finally meeting mine. For a moment I saw a flicker of truth in her gaze, but I had been fooled before. "Words are just words, Lisa. I need action. I need to see that you're committed to making things right." She nodded eagerly, her expression earnest. "I'm willing to go to counseling, to do anything you think will help rebuild our trust. I'll show you that I'm serious about this." The desperation in her voice was palpable, and I felt a mix of apprehension and hope. Part of me wanted to believe her, to give her another chance, but another part of me feared it would lead to more heartache. "You have to understand that it's going to take time. I'm not just going to forgive and forget overnight." "I get that," she replied. "I want you to take all the time you need. I'll prove myself to you." As we talked, I realized that this conversation was the first step toward rebuilding what we had lost. There was still a long road ahead, but I could see a glimmer of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could work through this. After our conversation, I felt both relieved and apprehensive. I wanted to believe in the possibility of repairing our marriage, but fear gnawed at me. Could I really trust her again? The next week was filled with small changes. Lisa began making an effort to communicate more openly, and for the first time in a while, we started to reconnect. We went on walks together, had dinner at our favorite restaurants, and slowly began to rebuild the intimacy that had been lost. But there were still moments of doubt. I couldn't shake the images of her with Chris from my mind. I found myself overthinking everything she did, analyzing her every word and gesture. It was exhausting, and I knew it wasn't healthy, but I couldn't help myself. I brought up the idea of counseling, both individual and couples therapy. I felt it would be beneficial for both of us to explore our feelings with a professional. Lisa agreed, and we scheduled our first session shortly after. Walking into that therapist's office was intimidating. The room was cozy, but it felt like a stage where our lives would be dissected. The therapist, an older woman named Dr. Carmen, welcomed us with a warm smile, and something inside me shifted. I realized we were taking our first real steps toward healing. As we began to talk, I felt the weight of the world slowly begin to lift. Lisa opened up about her insecurities and the reasons she strayed. It was tough to listen to, but I also felt a flicker of empathy for her. It was a reminder that we were both navigating our own struggles. Through therapy, we began to address the communication breakdown that had led to the affair. We discussed our expectations, fears, and the trust that had been broken. I started to feel that maybe we could rebuild something stronger, but it wouldn't be easy. Each session brought its own challenges. I still struggled with feelings of anger and betrayal, but I was committed to working through it. I knew there would be setbacks along the way, but I was willing to give us a chance. As the weeks passed, I found myself slowly healing. I learned to express my feelings without fear of being dismissed. Lisa, in turn, showed vulnerability, and I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with. Despite the progress, I couldn't ignore the nagging doubts that lingered. I had to confront the truth of what had happened. I needed to understand what had driven her to make such a devastating choice. As I laid in bed one night, I turned to her and asked, "What was it about Chris that drew you in? What was missing in our relationship?" Her silence was deafening, and I could see the conflict in her eyes. "I guess I was looking for excitement, something different. I felt like I was losing myself, and I thought being with him would fill that void. I shook my head. But it didn't, did it? You lost yourself even more. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. I know that now. I was stupid and selfish. I thought I could have both worlds, and it blows my mind how wrong I was. Those moments of honesty were both painful and healing. I realized that while we had a long way to go, we were learning to communicate in a way we hadn't before. Ultimately, I had to decide if I was willing to forgive her and move forward. No matter how much love I still felt for her, the path ahead was uncertain. But I knew one thing: I wouldn't let her gaslight me again. I was ready to reclaim my life, and if that meant continuing to work on our marriage, I was willing to fight for it. But I also understood that if things didn't change, I had to be prepared to let go. With that resolve, I took a deep breath, ready to face whatever came next. As the weeks turned into months, I found myself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions. The journey toward rebuilding our marriage was not linear. It felt like a roller coaster filled with ups and downs, moments of connection followed by sudden waves of doubt. Therapy sessions became a lifeline, a space for both of us to voice our concerns, frustrations, and hopes for the future. Lisa genuinely seemed committed to making amends. She was showing up to our sessions, putting in the effort to communicate openly, and trying to understand my feelings. I saw steps in the right direction, but the shadows of her betrayal still loomed large. I couldn't help but question whether she had truly changed or if this was just a temporary facade to placate me. Every time she took her phone out, my heart would race. I tried to suppress the urge to check up on her, but the temptation lingered like a whisper in the back of my mind. I reminded myself that regaining trust would take time, yet I still felt the tight grip of insecurity clawing at me. One evening, while we were cooking dinner together, I decided to bring up the topic of her friendship with Chris again. "How often do you two talk now?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. Lisa paused, her hands stilling as she sliced the vegetables. "We don't really talk anymore. I've made it clear that I'm focusing on you and our marriage." I nodded, but a part of me felt uneasy. "Are you sure he's not reaching out? I don't want you to feel pressured, but I just want to know you're being honest." She turned to face me, sincerity etched on her face. "I promise I've cut ties with him. It was a mistake and I regret it every day. I want you to trust me, but it's hard when I know I've broken that trust." Her honesty was refreshing, but it didn't erase the past. I wanted to believe her, but there was an ache in my chest that wouldn't let go. That night, after the dinner dishes had been washed and we settled into the living room, I expressed my fears more openly. "I want to trust you, Lisa, but I still feel so vulnerable. I don't want to be in a constant state of questioning." "I understand, and I'm here to reassure you," she replied, her eyes searching mine for understanding. "I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm committed to us." A flicker of hope sparked within me. Maybe we could navigate this together, but I also knew that healing didn't happen overnight. There would be triggers and reminders of her betrayal that might set me back, moments when we would both falter. As we continued with therapy, we also agreed to start going on date nights again, something we had let slip away during the tumultuous past few months. We decided to relive some of those early moments that had brought us together, hoping to rekindle the magic we once shared. The first date night was a mix of excitement and anxiety. We chose our favorite Italian restaurant, the same place where we had gone on our first date. As we sat across from each other, the familiar ambience enveloped us and laughter filled the air. It felt good to reconnect, and for a brief moment I felt a sense of normalcy. But then, as she laughed at a joke I made, the thought crept back. Was this all just a facade? Was she truly committed to rebuilding our marriage, or was she still harboring feelings for Chris? I pushed the thoughts aside, trying to focus on the present, but the doubts nagged at me throughout the evening. After dinner, we strolled hand in hand through the park, the moon casting a soft glow on our path. I cherished the feeling of her fingers intertwined with mine, but I also felt a knot in my stomach. "Can we talk about something?" I finally asked, my voice softer than I intended. "Of course," she replied, and I could sense the tension in her body as she braced for what was coming. "I still struggle with the idea of you and Chris. It haunts me," I confessed, feeling the weight of vulnerability. "I know," she said, her eyes filled with empathy. "And I'm so sorry for the pain I've caused. I hate that I hurt you, and I never want to put you through that again." Her sincerity touched something deep within me. "I just want you to understand that it's not easy for me to let go of those feelings. I need time, and I need to feel secure in our relationship again. I'll give you all the time you need, Mark. I promise," she said, squeezing my hand. As we continued our walk, I realized that it was moments like these that truly mattered. We were taking baby steps toward healing, and while the path might be rocky, there was a flicker of hope illuminating our way. However, the following week brought unexpected turbulence. I was out running errands when I received a call from an unknown number. I hesitated but eventually answered. "Is this Mark?" a female voice on the other end asked. "Yes," I replied, wariness creeping in. "I'm calling on behalf of Chris. I think you need to know that he's been reaching out to Lisa," she said, the words hitting me like a punch in the gut. "What do you mean?" I demanded, my heart racing as I tried to process the implications. "He's been texting her and I've seen their conversations. I thought you should know," she explained. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice trembling with anger. "Because I think she deserves better. You can't keep pretending everything is fine if she's still in contact with him," she said before hanging up. I was left standing in the middle of the grocery store, feeling like the floor had dropped out beneath me. I couldn't breathe, the air feeling thick and suffocating as I processed what I had just heard. I had been working so hard to rebuild trust, and now this. It felt like a cruel twist of fate. I rushed home, my heart pounding as I fought against the whirlwind of emotions threatening to consume me. When I arrived, Lisa was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. I confronted her, my voice sharp with urgency. "We need to talk now." Her expression shifted, the cheerfulness draining from her face. "What's wrong?" "Someone called me today. They said Chris has been texting you. Is that true?" Panic flickered in her eyes. "What? Who called you?" "That doesn't matter. What matters is if you're still in contact with him." I shot back, feeling my anger rise. "I swear I haven't." I cut ties like I said. She insisted, but I could see the fear in her eyes. "Then why would someone call me saying otherwise?" I pressed, my heart racing with betrayal. "I don't know, maybe it's someone trying to stir the pot," she exclaimed, but her voice lacked conviction. The silence that followed felt like a chasm separating us. I had fought so hard to forgive her, to believe in our journey, and now this. I felt the ground shake beneath me, my hopes crumbling once more. "Mark, please listen to me," she pleaded, her voice trembling. "I'm not talking to him, I swear. I'm focused on us. I want to make this work." I shook my head, frustration boiling over. "I can't keep doing this, Lisa. I can't keep second-guessing everything you do. It's exhausting. Please don't do this. I love you. I'm trying to change." Love. Those words echoed hollowly in the air. I felt my heart ache, torn between the love that still lingered and the overwhelming hurt that threatened to consume me. "I need time to think," I said finally, my voice heavy with resignation. As I walked away, I felt the walls closing in around me. I needed space to sort through the chaos. I was done playing this game of trust and betrayal. I had fought so hard to reclaim my life, and I wasn't willing to let it slip away again. But deep down, I knew I had a decision to make. Would I give her another chance, or was it time to cut my losses and walk away for good? I spent the night trying to process everything that had happened, tossing and turning as waves of anger, hurt, and confusion crashed over me. The revelation about Chris's potential involvement felt like a betrayal all over again, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was once again standing on shaky ground. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of foreboding. I knew I couldn't keep running from the truth, nor could I continue to live in limbo. I needed to confront Lisa and lay everything out on the table once and for all. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the atmosphere thick with tension. I could see the worry etched on her face, and it only fueled my resolve. "Lisa," I began, my voice steady but firm, "we need to talk about yesterday. About Chris. I can't keep pretending that it doesn't bother me. I feel like I don't know where we stand." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "Before you say anything, I need you to listen. I want to give us a chance, but I need complete honesty from you. If there's anything going on, any contact with him, I need to know now." She looked down at her hands, and my heart sank. "I haven't spoken to him since you found out about the affair. I swear, Mark. I'm not trying to hide anything from you. I don't know why someone would say that. A mixture of hurt and anger coursed through me. That's not good enough, Lisa. I need to feel secure in this relationship again, and I can't do that if there are unresolved ties to your past. I understand, she said softly, tears welling in her eyes. I don't want to lose you. I'm trying to change to be better, but I can't do that if you're always questioning me. Her vulnerability hit me hard, pulling at the remnants of love I still had for her. In that moment, I realized that trust was a two-way street. I couldn't keep holding her past against her if I wanted to move forward. Maybe I need to work on my trust issues as well, I admitted, my voice softer now. But it's going to take time, and we both have to be committed to this. Of course, she replied, relief washing over her features. I want this to work, Mark. I'll do whatever it takes. The sincerity in her voice reassured me, but the fear of getting hurt again still lingered in the back of my mind. I had to balance my desire for healing with the reality of what had happened. Let's set some ground rules, I suggested. I think we should keep each other updated about our friendships and who we're spending time with. It might help us feel more secure. That sounds fair, she agreed, her expression earnest. I want to be transparent with you. As the conversation continued, we delved into our expectations, fears, and what we could do to build a stronger foundation. I realized that while we had a long path ahead of us, we were both willing to put in the effort. Over the next few weeks, we made a conscious effort to strengthen our communication. We shared our feelings openly, and I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, her laughter, her kindness, and the warmth we had shared before everything fell apart. However, there were still moments when doubt crept back in. I would catch myself wondering if she was being genuine or if she was hiding something beneath the surface. It was a constant battle between wanting to believe in her and fearing the potential for betrayal. One evening, as we sat on the couch watching a movie, I felt a wave of calm wash over me. We were laughing and enjoying each other's company, and for the first time in a while I felt a flicker of hope. "Do you remember when we first met?" I asked, smiling at the memory. "You were so confident and I was this nervous wreck." She laughed, her eyes sparkling. "I remember, you were so cute and awkward. I thought, oh, I have to get to know this guy." That moment of nostalgia was a balm for my soul. We spent the rest of the night reminiscing about our early days, sharing our dreams and fears, and slowly my heart began to open up again. But as the weeks turned into months, I also knew that I faced a crucial decision. My emotional scars were still fresh, and I had to weigh whether I was willing to fully commit to rebuilding our relationship or if it was time to walk away. It all came to a head during one of our therapy sessions when Dr. Carmen posed a question. What do you both truly want moving forward? I took a deep breath, the weight of my emotions heavy on my chest. I want to believe that we can rebuild our marriage stronger than before, but I also don't want to ignore the pain I've felt. Lisa nodded, tears brimming in her eyes. I want that too, but I know it's going to take time. I want to prove to you that I'm here for you and that I can be the partner you deserve. Dr. Carmen guided us through the conversation, encouraging us to express our fears and aspirations. By the end of the session, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. In the days that followed, I made a conscious choice. I decided to move forward, to trust Lisa again, but with the understanding that it would take time and effort from both of us. I began to see her in a different light, not just as a wife who had betrayed me, but as a partner who was willing to fight for our marriage. I recognized the importance of forgiveness, not for her sake, but for my own peace of mind. The path ahead was still riddled with challenges, but I felt a sense of empowerment in choosing to work on our relationship. I realized that love is a journey, and while we had stumbled, we were still willing to walk hand in hand. As we continued this journey of healing, I found myself reflecting on the lessons I had learned. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild, but it is possible with open communication and commitment from both partners. I also learned the importance of self-reflection and understanding that my insecurities didn't define me. Instead of allowing them to fester, I was learning to confront them head-on. And so, with a cautious heart, I stepped into a new chapter with Lisa. I was determined to reclaim my happiness, to nurture the love we still had, and to navigate the complexities of trust together. As we faced the unknown, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. This was not just about forgiveness or betrayal, it was about building a future. And with that thought, I took Lisa's hand in mine, ready to move forward, one step at a time.